But here the air shook with panic and desperation. Jax stepped forward. "What do you need, doctor?" Mira trembled. "Tools. Antibiotics. Clean cloth. Anything." Without hesitation, Jax ripped off his own shirt, tore it into strips, and began boiling water. He cleaned tools with shaking hands, guided by Myra's sharp instructions. He shouted orders, sent people running for herbs and supplies, and held Amy's hand as waves of agony shook her body. For 6 hours, he worked nonstop. Sweat dripped from his forehead. His hands turned raw. His arms shook from exhaustion. But he never stopped, never slowed, never surrendered. Lyra watched from the corner of the room. In Celestian society, a mother like Amy would have been declared unfit, her life dismissed as a natural loss. But Jax fought for her with the intensity of a soldier defending an entire world. "Why does he care so much?" Lyra whispered to a nearby colonist. The woman answered softly, "Because one life matters to us. Everyone." In those moments, something inside Lyra cracked even further. She saw a kind of strength she had never known, a strength born not from power, but from compassion. Finally, as the sun fell, a tiny cry filled the air. A small, fragile baby was born. Alive. Safe. Amy sobbed in relief as Mira placed the newborn into her trembling arms. The entire settlement cheered. Jack staggered back, exhausted but smiling. Lyra stared at him, her chest tight with emotions she couldn't name. Humans may have lacked advanced technology, but they possessed something else. A stubborn, burning will to protect life. And for the first time, Lyra wondered if her empire might have been wrong all along. Days passed, and the settlement slowly returned to its rhythm. But something inside Princess Lyra had changed, quietly, steadily, like a small flame expanding in the dark. She found herself watching humans with a new curiosity, noticing details she had ignored before. Their laughter after a long day of work, their gentle arguments over small things, the way they encouraged children to speak freely, the way they comforted each other without hesitation. This puzzled her more than any alien species she had ever studied. One morning, as she walked outside, she found Jax repairing a broken irrigation pipe. His hands were dirty, hair damp with sweat, yet he hummed softly like someone at peace. "You are a leader," Lyra said. "Why do you fix pipes?" He looked up at her, confused. "Because it needs to be fixed. In the Celestian Empire," she said slowly, "leaders do not repair things. They command others to do it." Jax shrugged. "Maybe that's why your leaders need so many soldiers." Lyra frowned, unsure if he meant it as humor or criticism. Jax noticed her expression and stood to stretch. "Come on," he said. "Let me show you something." He guided her toward a small building she had not entered before, the library. It was a modest structure with shelves built from scrap metal and local wood. But inside were dozens of books, their spines cracked from use. Paper, stories, history, knowledge. Lyra stared in disbelief. "These are your texts? You brought them from Earth." "Some," Jax said. "Others we printed ourselves. Humans love stories. They remind us why we keep going." He pulled out a worn book with a faded cover. "This one helped me survive the hardest times." Victor Hanley, Man's Search for Meaning, Lyra read aloud, struggling with the human script. Jax opened it gently, as if it were a living thing. "It's about a man who suffered terribly, but found purpose in helping others." Lyra took the book carefully. The pages carried marks of age, like battle scars. She had never seen a Celestian treat any object with such respect. "Read me a part," she said, surprising herself. Jax smiled softly and began to read. The words spoke of pain, but also hope, of choosing strength even when everything was lost. Lyra listened in silence, her chest tight with unfamiliar emotion. When he finished, she closed her eyes for a moment. "You humans," she whispered, "your species writes many books like this?" "Thousands," Jax replied. "We use stories to understand ourselves." Lyra placed the book back gently. "Celestians do not write this way. We write about victory, conquest, logic, efficiency. Not," she hesitated. "Feelings. Maybe you should," Jax said. "Feelings remind us we're alive." Lyra looked at him quickly, as though the sentence had reached into her chest and touched something she wasn't ready to acknowledge. Later that day, a Celestian patrol ship appeared in the sky. Its crystal hull gleamed menacingly as it descended. A A shiver ran down Lyra's spine. Captain Rollin, a loyal commander of her father's empire, stepped out with 2 guards. He was tall, armored, and radiated the cold superiority common among Celestians. Lyra braced herself. "Princess Lyra," Rollin said sharply, "we are here to inspect your living conditions, to ensure your punishment proceeds as ordered." Jax approached with calm confidence. "Welcome to Terra Nova 7, Captain." Rollin looked at him as though examining an insect. "And this is the human you were forced to marry?" Lyra's jaw tightened. "His name is Captain Jackson Reed. He is my husband." Rollin ignored her words completely. "Human, step aside." Jax did not move. "I said," Rollin hissed, "step aside." "And I said," Jax replied evenly, "that you are welcome here as our guest. But you will show respect." The Celestian guards tensed, hands drifting toward their weapons. Lyra felt something icy spike in her chest. She stepped between them quickly. "Captain Rollin," she said, her voice firm, "this settlement has rules. You will follow them. Jax is the leader here." Rollin stared at her in disbelief. "You defend him? A human?" "I defend those who deserve respect," Lyra said. Behind Jax, humans had begun gathering, quietly, calmly, ready to protect their captain. Their unity was not born of fear. It was born of loyalty. Rollin noticed this. His face darkened with confusion. "They stand with him? Willingly?" "Yes," Lyra said gently. "Humans do not serve leaders out of fear. They follow them because they believe in them." Rollin looked unsettled. Celestians followed authority because they had no choice. This human settlement operated on trust, something Rollin had never seen. Jax extended a hand. "Walk with me, Captain. I can show you our progress." Rollin recoiled as if the gesture was an insult. "I will report this," he snapped. "Your attachment to these creatures grows dangerous." Lyra felt heat rise in her chest. "My attachment," she said coldly, "is my concern, not yours." Rollin left quickly, furious and confused. As the ship rose into the sky, Jax let out a breath. "He didn't like me very much." Lyra turned to him. Her expression was unreadable. "He does not understand humans." She paused. "Not the way I am beginning to." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind carried soft sounds from the settlement, children laughing, tools tapping, life moving forward. For the first time since her arrival, Lyra felt something unexpected wash over her. Belonging. A quiet, fragile thread connecting her to this strange human world. A thread she was no longer sure she wanted to break. The storm arrived without warning, violent, roaring, and far stronger than anything Terra Nova 7 had faced before. Princess Lyra shot up from her bed as thunder cracked across the sky like a cannon blast. Rain slammed against the windows in heavy sheets. The wind howled with a force that made the walls tremble. She rushed downstairs, finding Jax already awake, soaked with rain, a radio clutched in his hand. "How bad is it?" she asked. Jax's jaw tightened. "Bad enough to tear half the settlement apart. The weather station says the storm could last 3 days." Lightning flashed, revealing trees bending nearly to the ground and debris spinning through the air like deadly knives. Several small buildings had already collapsed. The river beside the settlement churned violently, rising fast. "You must evacuate," Lyra insisted. "My people's ship still orbits nearby. It can shelter everyone safely." Jax shook his head immediately. "We don't leave our home." Lyra stepped closer, her voice sharp. "Jackson Reed, this storm can kill hundreds. You cannot fight nature." Jax met her eyes with a calm fierceness that made her chest tighten. "Maybe not, but we can fight for our people. That's what humans do." Before Lyra could argue, he grabbed his coat. "I need to help them." He ran into the storm. Lyra, heart pounding, followed. Outside, chaos ruled. People stumbled through the wind trying to secure loose panels. Others struggled to carry children to stronger buildings. The river overflowed, water rushing into the lower streets. A section of farmland was already destroyed, swallowed by violent mud. Yet, even in this disaster, humans worked like a single organism. Jax moved from group to group, shouting orders through the noise. "Tie down everything you can. Move families into the school building, strongest walls. Get ropes around the storage tanks before the wind takes them." No one questioned him. No one hesitated. They trusted him completely. Lyra, realizing how much strength this human had, used her Celestian abilities to help. She lifted heavy beams alone. She pushed stalled machinery into place. She scanned through the storm, using her enhanced senses to locate trapped families. Humans stared at her with awe. One child whispered, "She's amazing." The words landed softly in her heart. Hours passed. The storm grew worse. Wind speeds climbed until the air itself felt like an enemy. Rain blurred everything. People could barely hear each other over the roar. Then came the disaster that changed everything. A terrified voice crackled through the radio. "Jax, the clinic is flooding. We need help, now." Jax cursed under his breath. "The clinic is too low. If it fills with water, patients will drown," Lyra finished. The worst part, the only path to the clinic crossed a bridge that shook violently under the raging river. Jax turned to his team. "We need to reinforce the bridge before it collapses." Mark stared at the river. "Jax, look at that water. It's suicide." Lyra grabbed Jax's arm. "Let my people help. We have technology." "Lyra," Jax said softly, "there's no time to wait for your ship." He strapped a rope around his waist. Lyra felt panic surge through her. "You cannot go out there." Jax gave her a tired smile. "If I don't go, those families die." The wind whipped around them. The bridge groaned like a wounded animal. Jax stepped onto it. The board shuddered. Rain soaked him instantly. The river rose up like claws trying to pull him in. Lyra watched, her heart hammering, as he fought his way across. Midway through, a section of the bridge snapped. "Jax," she screamed. He fell, caught the rope with one hand, dangling over the furious water. Lyra's breath froze. For a second, she felt a terror she had never known. Losing him, this stubborn, brave human, felt unthinkable. But Jax, teeth gritted, hauled himself back up, inch by inch, pure strength keeping him alive. When he finally climbed back onto the bridge, Lyra felt her knees weaken with relief. He continued forward until he reached the clinic side. Then, with a determination that seemed almost impossible, he replaced supports, hammered new boards, and tied anchor ropes while the storm tried to destroy everything around him. For 2 unbearable hours, he worked alone in the darkness. Finally, the bridge held. Jax guided families, soaking, terrified, clinging to him, across to safety. Only when the last person was safe did he allow himself to collapse. Lyra sprinted toward him as he stumbled back into the settlement. His lips were blue from cold. His hands were cut and shaking. His entire body trembled from exhaustion. "You reckless human," Lyra shouted, catching him before he fell. Her voice cracked. "You almost died." "But I didn't," Jax whispered, giving her a faint smile. "And everyone's alive." Lyra pulled him close without thinking, shielding him from the wind with her own body. In that moment, in the heart of the storm, she realized something undeniable. This man was not weak. He was not primitive. He was not lesser. He was the strongest person she had ever known, and the fear of losing him had felt like losing a part of herself. When the storm finally calmed, the settlement looked bruised but alive. Buildings had cracks. Trees were down. The riverbank had changed shape entirely. But the people, every single one, had survived. For 3 days, Princess Lyra and Jax worked side by side in the ruins. She helped lift fallen beams, stabilize weak walls, and repair generators using Celestian knowledge. Humans watched her with newfound admiration. Some even smiled shyly at her. Children waved when she passed. It felt strange, warm, unfamiliar. "Welcome." Jax moved slower than usual, still healing from the bridge ordeal. His steps were unsteady, his arm wrapped in bandages, but he never stopped working. Lyra kept close, silently ready to catch him if he stumbled again. And sometimes he did. Each time, she reached out without thinking. And each time, he whispered, "Thanks," with that quiet, grateful voice that stirred something deep inside her. One evening, after a long day of repairs, Lyra found Jax sitting outside the house, staring at the horizon. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant orange and gold. The air smelled of wet soil and fresh leaves. "You should be resting," she said softly. Jax chuckled. "If I rest any more, Mira will put me in a bed and chain me to it." Lyra sat beside him, not too close, but closer than she would have a month ago. They watched the sky for a while. Humans and Celestians shared the same stars, but somehow the view felt different with him. "You helped save this place," Jax said quietly. "Without you, we might have lost half the town." Lyra looked down at her hands. "I never worked like that before. Celestian royalty does not do manual labor." Did you hate it? Jax asked. She shook her head slowly. I think I liked it. A pause. I liked working with you. Jax's breath caught slightly, but he didn't turn his head. He didn't need to. As days passed, they grew closer in small, quiet ways. Lyra joined him on morning rounds, checking the recovery progress. She helped in the workshop, learning how humans crafted tools with simple methods. She visited the medical center to bring supplies Mira needed. She even sat in the schoolhouse, listening to children read stories about far-off worlds. One day, Jax brought her to the basement, his personal sanctuary. And sketches. I thought you should see where I think, Jax said. Lyra moved slowly through the room, touching the edges of books with careful fingers. Some titles were worn nearly smooth from age. You love this place, she said. Jax nodded. Books carried humanity through war, suffering, and dark times. They remind us that we can rise again. He handed her a book of poetry. Lyra opened it, reading a simple human poem about holding on to hope even in the coldest nights. Something inside her chest tightened. These words, she whispered. They make me feel something. Something heavy, but not painful. Jax smiled softly. Humans call that emotion longing. Lyra turned her head toward him. Longing for what? His voice lowered. For something, or someone, you never thought you needed until now. Lyra's heart skipped. She closed the book gently, as though protecting a fragile flame. But the peace didn't last. A shadow fell over the settlement as a massive golden Celestian warship descended from orbit, the Emperor's personal vessel. Every human stopped what they were doing. The air grew tight with fear. Jax stepped in front of Lyra instinctively, though he had no weapon. Though he knew he could not stop what was coming. Though he knew the Emperor could crush him like dust. Lyra felt something fierce twist in her stomach. My father, she whispered. He has come. The Emperor emerged from the ship with 50 royal guards, each wearing crystal armor that absorbed the sunlight and flared it back like fire. He scanned the settlement with cold, sharp eyes, taking in the simple homes, the repaired walls, the children playing with makeshift toys. His gaze finally landed on Lyra. Her heart dropped. The Emperor Kaler of the Celestian Empire walked toward them with a step that made the ground tremble. Jax did not bow, did not kneel, did not flinch. He only stood tall beside Lyra. And Lyra realized with a start that she stepped closer to him, barely an inch, but enough to show where she stood. Her father's voice boomed. Daughter, I have come to see how your punishment progresses. Prepare yourself. Lyra inhaled deeply. This would be the moment that decided everything. Her future, Jax's fate, and the fragile thread tying their worlds together. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of her father. She was afraid of losing the human who had shown her what strength truly meant. The Emperor's shadow stretched across the settlement like a falling night. His golden armor glowed with the brilliance of a dying star, every step echoing with the weight of an entire empire. Humans stood frozen. Celestian guards formed a wall of shimmering crystal behind him. And in the center of it all stood Lyra, her heartbeat loud in her ears, Jax standing strong beside her despite his wounds. Emperor Kaler's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Lyra Solarin. Step forward. Lyra obeyed, but she stayed close enough that her arm brushed Jax's. A small gesture, but one bold enough to make several guards gasp softly. The Emperor's gaze snapped to Jax, sharp as a blade. So, this is the human you were forced to marry. Jax didn't bow, didn't avert his eyes. He simply nodded with quiet respect. I am Captain Jackson Reed. The Emperor studied him like one studies an unfamiliar weapon. You speak as if you matter. I matter here, Jax replied calmly. To my people, and to your daughter. A ripple of tension moved through the guards. Lyra felt her father's power gathering, like the air before a storm. You will not speak of her as if you are equals, Kaler growled. Why not? Lyra said suddenly. Every Celestian stiffened. Father, she continued, voice clear and steady. Since coming to this world, I have learned things you never taught me. Things our empire has forgotten. Kaler's eyes narrowed. Such as, Lyra glanced at the settlement, the rebuilt homes, the people who watched with anxious hope. Then she looked at Jax, whose steady gaze made her feel braver than she had ever been. Humans, she said, love fiercely. They protect each other even when they have nothing. They work together without force. They risk their lives for strangers. They are not weak, father. They are strong in ways our people cannot understand. Kaler spoke slowly, dangerously. Your punishment was meant to break your foolish idealism, not feed it. It was meant to teach me a lesson, Lyra agreed, lifting her chin. And it has. She took a breath. A choice stood before her like a cliff's edge. I choose this place, she said. I choose these people. I choose him. Jax's breath caught. His hand moved slightly toward hers, stopping just before touching. The Emperor's control snapped. You dare shame our bloodline? You dare stand with this creature against your own father? Lyra didn't look away. If standing with him is a crime, then I accept punishment. The Emperor's fury twisted the air. Then let the old ways decide your fate. Human. He pointed his crystal sword at Jax. We settle this challenge through combat. If you lose, you die. My daughter will return home. If you win, his voice darkened. I will consider her choice. Lyra grabbed Jax's arm. No, you are still injured. This is madness. Jax gently took her hand. Lyra, I have to. His voice was soft but unbreakable. For you. Her chest tightened painfully. She had never heard words like that. Honest, simple, full of meaning. The duel began. The settlement formed a wide circle. Humans watched with terrified silence. Celestian guards stood rigid, glowing armor ready to intervene. The Emperor stepped into the arena, towering above Jax, his sword humming with power. Jax carried only a reinforced combat knife and an old energy shield cracked from previous battles. Lyra felt every second like a blade against her heart. The first clash came like lightning. Kaler struck with the strength of a titan, sending Jax rolling across the dirt. The shield shattered instantly. Jax rose, breath ragged, blood trickling down his arm, but he didn't retreat. He dodged another blow, using smaller size as his advantage. He moved like a soldier who had survived countless battles, reading the terrain, predicting patterns, using grit instead of power. But every hit from the Emperor was like a thunder strike. Lyra's nails dug into her palms. Please stop this. No one listened. After 10 brutal minutes, Jax faltered. A heavy strike slammed him to his knees. He gasped, barely able to lift the knife. The Emperor aimed the killing blow. Lyra's scream tore through the air. No! She sprinted into the arena, throwing herself in front of Jax, arms outstretched. If you kill him, she said breathlessly, you will kill me too. The Emperor froze. Not because she blocked him, but because of what shone in her eyes. Love. Raw. Fearless. Unhidden. Kaler lowered his weapon slightly. You would die for him? Yes, Lyra said without hesitation. The same way he nearly died for his people. The same way he saved this settlement. The same way he saved me. Silence fell over the entire field. Jax, barely conscious, whispered, Lyra. She turned, kneeling beside him, pressing her forehead to his. You should not have fought alone. I never was, he murmured. The Emperor watched them, confusion and realization battling in his eyes. He finally spoke, voice softer than before. Human, you fought with honor. More than many of my own warriors. He lifted his sword, then drove it into the ground. I yield, he declared. Gasps erupted from both Celestians and humans. I will not break my daughter, Kaler continued, nor destroy the bond she has chosen. You have proven your worth, Jackson Reed. Lyra nearly collapsed in relief. Jax coughed out a laugh. Does that mean we're good? For now, the Emperor said with a rare hint of amusement. But you remain a strange creature. In the days that followed, everything changed. The Emperor stayed to observe. He watched humans work, build, care grow. He saw their unity, their resilience, their stubborn hope. And slowly, very slowly, his perspective shifted. Before departing, he made an announcement. In honor of my daughter and her chosen family, he declared, the Celestian Empire will offer Terra Nova 7 protection, not as subjects, but as allies. Cheers erupted. Humans cried. Celestians bowed. Lyra stood at Jax's side, her hand in his. For once, she feared nothing. Kaler approached her quietly. You have found something rare here, my daughter. Lyra met his eyes. I have found myself. The Emperor nodded, touching her forehead gently, a gesture he had not given her since childhood. Then I leave you in good hands. He looked at Jax. Take care of her. I will, Jax promised. When the Emperor's ship finally rose into the sky, Lyra and Jax stood together watching the golden glow fade into the stars. For a long time, they said nothing. Then Lyra whispered, "Jax, everything has changed." Jax smiled gently, brushing a rain-worn strand of silver hair from her face. "Only one thing matters to me." "And what is that?" she asked. "That you're here," he said softly. "With us. With me." Lyra leaned closer, her voice barely a breath. "I choose you. Not because I must, but because I want to." Jax took her hand, this time with no hesitation, no distance, no uncertainty. Under the twin moons of Terra Nova, 7, surrounded by a settlement rebuilt by courage and hope, they stood together, no longer strangers bound by punishment, but partners, leaders, a bridge between two worlds, and perhaps something even more, a new future, a new alliance, a new love written in the stars. Storm-gray clouds hung over the Celestian High Chamber as Princess Lyra stood alone in the center of the glowing floor. Her silver-blue skin reflected the cold light of the crystal pillars around her. 7 towering council members sat on thrones made of living energy, their faces carved with disappointment. Lyra kept her back straight, but her heart pounded like a trapped bird. She had known this day would come. She had challenged the old laws. She had spoken kindly of humans. And for the Celestian Empire, that was unforgivable. High Chancellor Varen leaned forward, his voice sharp like breaking stone. "Princess Lyra of House Solaran, you have disgraced your lineage. You aided humans. You defended them. You called them our equals. This is a crime against the Empire." Lyra lifted her chin. Her voice did not shake. "Humans are not our enemies. They think, they build, they feel. They are not lesser beings." The chamber erupted with disgust. Even her father, Emperor Kalar, stared at her as if she were a stranger. At 9 feet tall, covered in radiant armor, he looked more like a deity than a man. But today his eyes held only ice. "You speak of them with affection," Kalar thundered. "If you admire them so much, then you shall live among them. You shall marry one." Lyra's blood froze. The chamber went silent. A Celestian princess, bound to a human? It was a fate worse than exile. Humans were considered barely civilized. To marry one meant losing all honor forever. "Father, no," Lyra whispered. "Take my title if you must. Lock me away. But do not do this." "It is done," Emperor Kalar said without emotion. "You will be sent to the frontier world called Terra Nova 7. Their captain will be your husband. You will live in their dirt and breathe their crude air until your final day. Only then will you understand the truth about humans." Lyra felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Guard stepped forward, but she did not resist. Her fate had already been sealed. Far across the galaxy, Captain Jackson Reed wiped sweat from his forehead as he repaired a broken water purifier. He was a former soldier, now the leader of a struggling human colony. They lived with limited supplies, constant danger, and frequent pirate threats. Every day was a battle for survival. His friend Tori ran toward him, breathless. "Jax, you need to see this. Now." Jax took the glowing screen from her hands. A single message blinked in alien script, auto-translated into English. "The Celestian Empire will grant your colony protection. In exchange, Captain Jackson Reed must enter a marriage union with Princess Lyra of House Solaran." Jax stared in disbelief. "This is a joke." Tori swallowed. "It's not. Their signature is real." Jax had seen Celestian ships up close during the war. He knew their power. If they offered protection, pirates would never touch Terra Nova 7 again. But marry an alien princess? Someone who probably hated humans more than anything? He looked around at the small settlement. Children playing, workers fixing broken walls, tired families still trying to build a future. Without help, they wouldn't survive another year. "Tell them yes," Jax said quietly. "If this keeps my people safe, I'll do it." 3 days later, the sky split open as a massive Celestian vessel descended, its hull shimmering like liquid starlight. The ground trembled as it landed. Princess Lyra stepped out, tall and regal, her crystalline armor glowing with shifting colors. Her expression was cold, sharp, furious. 20 Celestian guards followed her, glaring at everything and everyone. Jax walked forward, feeling painfully small beside her. When their eyes met, he saw bitterness, anger, and heartbreak mixed into one. "Princess Lyra," he said, bowing slightly. "Welcome to Terra Nova 7. She looked at him the way someone might look at a stain. "Let us finish this punishment quickly," she said in perfect English. I wish to return indoors as soon as possible." The words cut deeper than any blade, but Jax only nodded. The marriage ceremony that followed was silent, tense, and cold. Lyra stood stiff as stone, refusing even to look at Jax. When it was time to seal the vow with a kiss, she turned her head away. The human colonists watched with heavy hearts. This marriage would protect them, but at a terrible cost. After the ceremony, only 2 Celestian guards remained to watch Lyra. Jax guided her to the house he had prepared, offering her the larger bedroom. "You are safe here," he said gently. "I won't force anything." Lyra blinked, surprised, not by his words, but by the kindness in them. She had expected cruelty. She had expected domination. Instead, she found something she had never been taught to expect from a human: respect. And that unexpected truth unsettled her more than the marriage itself. The first morning on Terra Nova, 7 felt strange to Princess Lyra. She woke up expecting silence and misery, but instead she heard something unexpected: laughter, hammers striking wood, engines humming, voices calling out to each other with warmth and energy. Her people had described humans as lazy creatures who barely survived. But the sound outside told a different story. Lyra dressed in a simple robe and approached the window. The rising sun painted the settlement gold, revealing a place full of motion. Humans were already working even though the day had barely begun. Some repaired fences, others tended to gardens bursting with strange green plants. Children ran between buildings, helping adults carry small tools. Everything looked purposeful, organized, surprisingly alive. This was not what she had imagined. A knock sounded on her door. "Princess Lyra?" Jax's voice was careful, almost gentle. "I brought breakfast." Lyra opened the door just enough to see a wooden tray in his hands. The food smelled sweet and warm. Flat golden cakes drizzled with syrup, soft eggs, and a type of meat she didn't recognize. "What is this?" she asked suspiciously. "Pancakes, eggs, and bacon," Jax said. He shifted uncomfortably. "If you don't like it, I can make something else." His tone held no command, no arrogance. He wasn't forcing anything on her. He was simply trying. Lyra tasted the pancakes, ready to dislike them. But they were soft and warm, and the flavor made her eyes widen for a moment. She quickly hid her reaction. "It is acceptable," she said flatly. Jax smiled a little. "Good. After you eat, I can show you around the settlement. You might want to see where you'll be living." Lyra almost refused out of pride, but curiosity tugged at her. The Empire had told her humans lived in filth and chaos. Yet everything she saw so far seemed different. After breakfast, Jax guided her through Terra Nova 7. Every building was simple but sturdy. Humans worked together like one large family. In the workshops, they carved wood, shaped metal tools, and built furniture with their bare hands. In the medical center, Dr. Mira Chun helped a sick man while children waited patiently for their checkups. In the schoolhouse, young humans learned about planets and stars with eagerness Lyra rarely saw in Celestian children. "How long did this take to build?" she asked without thinking. "About 5 years," Jax replied. "When we arrived, there was nothing but forest. We had to build everything from scratch." Lyra looked around again, this time with new eyes. Her people relied on advanced machines and millions of workers. These humans had created their home using simple tools, determination, and teamwork. It was impressive. At the school, a group of children approached Jax. They hugged him around the waist and showed him drawings of alien creatures and stars. "You are their leader, yet they touch you so freely?" Lyra asked, stunned. "Why wouldn't they?" Jax said, "They're kids. They trust us, and I want them to feel safe around me." In Celestian culture, children never approached leaders. It was considered disrespectful. But here, Jax knelt down and smiled at every child as if each one mattered. Lyra didn't know what to think. As they walked, colonists greeted Jax by name. Some joked with him, others thanked him for helping them fix something the previous day. "Are you not afraid they will lose respect for you?" she asked. Jax laughed softly. "Respect doesn't come from fear, princess. It comes from trust." That sentence echoed in Lyra's mind like a strange melody. They continued their walk to the outskirts of the settlement where humans were clearing land. The work was exhausting, but the workers laughed and sang while lifting heavy logs. They helped each other constantly, never leaving anyone alone. "Your people work very hard," Lyra admitted quietly. Jax shrugged. "We have to. Survival doesn't come easy here." Suddenly, a loud alarm wailed across the settlement. Humans froze. Jax's expression shifted instantly from relaxed to hardened. "What is that?" Lyra asked. "Pirates," Jax said. "Raiders. And they're close." He sprinted toward the center of the settlement, shouting orders with calm precision. Workers dropped their tools and ran to evacuate children into bunkers. Others grabbed weapons from storage. Even elderly humans moved quickly, helping gather supplies. Lyra felt her heart race. She looked up at the sky and saw 3 dark ships descending. Their hulls were marked with crude symbols. Raiders. Violent scavengers with no honor. She expected Jax to hide, to cower, to retreat. Instead, he ran toward the front line. He strapped on old armor and pulled out a heavy rifle. His colonists formed defensive positions around him. They aimed with discipline and courage she had never expected from primitive creatures. "Stay inside," Jax told her. "The bunkers are safer. But I know you can take care of yourself if needed." Then he ran out into the chaos. Lyra watched through the window as the raider ships landed and spilled out monstrous figures armed with lethal weapons. Energy blasts lit up the sky as battle erupted. Humans fought from behind cover, striking with surprising accuracy. When raiders got close, humans fought hand-to-hand with knives and sheer will. And Jax moved like he had danced with danger his whole life. He dodged beams, protected colonists, and led counterattacks with fearless determination. This was not cowardice. This was not weakness. This was courage. For the first time, Lyra felt something shift inside her. A small crack in the wall of everything she had been taught. Humans were not what her empire claimed. They were something else. Something fierce. Something stubborn. Something impossible to ignore. And as the battle raged on, Lyra realized one undeniable truth. Her punishment had placed her among the most surprising warriors in the galaxy. The battle ended long after the sun had set. Smoke drifted through the settlement, mixing with the sharp scent of burned metal. The raiders had been driven off, some dead, others fleeing back to their ships. The humans, battered and exhausted, gathered to care for their wounded. Princess Lyra stepped out of the house, unable to stay inside any longer. The scene she witnessed felt unreal. Humans, dirty and bleeding, worked with calm purpose. They used old tools, scraps of cloth, and whatever medicine they could find to treat each other. No one cried. No one complained. Everyone helped everyone else. Then she saw Jax. He stood in the center of the square, armor cracked, face smeared with soot, a deep cut across his arm. Yet he moved from person to person, checking on them with quiet concern. When a young man sobbed over his injured brother, Jax knelt and spoke softly, steadying him. Lyra didn't understand it. He was the leader. He should have been resting, healing, commanding from safety. But instead he carried wounded colonists on his back, delivered supplies, and comforted families. He placed others first. Always. This alone made her uneasy. It didn't match anything she had been taught. Later that night, when the settlement finally grew quiet, Jax limped home. Lyra stayed awake, watching through the window as he entered the house. She met him at the doorway. "You are hurt," she said, her voice firmer than she meant. Jax blinked in surprise. "I'm okay. Dr. Mira patched me up." He tried to sit down, but nearly stumbled. Lyra caught his arm before he fell. For a moment they froze, his warm skin against her cool fingers. She let go quickly, unsettled by the strange sensation. "You should rest," she said. Jax gave a tired smile. "I will. I'm just glad everyone made it through." Lyra stared at him. "You ran toward danger. You could have died." "That's what leaders do," he replied simply. Her own father would never risk his life for others. Celestian leaders stood above their people, not beside them. Jax was something different. That night, Lyra lay awake staring at the ceiling. She hated admitting it, even to herself, but she felt the first flicker of respect for him. The next week brought unexpected calm. The settlement repaired broken walls, fixed machinery, and buried raider remains far outside the perimeter. Jax refused rest, throwing himself into rebuilding. Lyra, however, found herself watching quietly from the edges. She saw how humans cared for each other. She saw how they worked with dedication, lifting beams together, singing while repairing homes, sharing tools even when supplies were low. When an old woman struggled to carry a basket of supplies, 3 children ran to help her. No one ordered them. Kindness was simply part of their nature. Why are they doing that? Lyra asked Jax one day. Doing what? He replied. Helping her. They gain nothing from it. Jax looked at her like she had asked why the sun rose. Because she needs help. That is not a reason, Lyra insisted. Not in the Empire. Jax raised an eyebrow. Maybe that's why the Empire fears compassion. It makes people powerful in ways they don't expect. Lyra didn't respond. She wasn't ready to accept that yet. Her perspective shifted again when a crisis hit the medical center. Lyra heard a scream from the clinic and rushed forward. People were crowding around the doorway, frightened and shaken. Inside, she saw Dr. Mira struggling to help a young woman lying on a table. Amy, the mechanic's wife, was giving birth. But something was terribly wrong. Blood pooled on the floor. Amy's breathing came in sharp, painful cries. The baby wasn't positioned correctly, and the clinic lacked advanced Celestian equipment. We're losing her, Mira whispered. Lyra stepped back, shocked. On her world, weak births were common. Babies and mothers often died, and Celestians accepted it as natural selection.